Welcome to the Bearing It All podcast, where we dive deep into the backstories of celebrities, CEOs, and multi-million and billion-dollar entrepreneurs. There are no rules as we aspire to inspire by sharing real experiences, triumphant comebacks, and what the road to success really looks like. It's all about the grit behind the glamour. Welcome to the Bearing It All podcast. I'm so excited today. We have Elena Cardone, a real estate mogul, an actress from Hollywood who stemmed from the South and has an amazing story. You've overcome so much, and I cannot wait to share your true Hollywood story with my audience. Welcome to Bearing It All, Elena.
Oh, Barbara, what an honor. Thank you for having me on your show. You're so incredible. I'm a fan.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. And I really do feel that you have you've had an incredible journey, but what we see is this beautiful supermodel. You have two amazing daughters. You have an incredible marriage. You are running 10X Ladies, which is an empire builder to help other women achieve great success in relationships and business and just their health and their wealth, which is absolutely incredible and a game changer for so many. But I know it wasn't always as glamorous and as amazing. And I want to start from the beginning because I have so many questions. You were born in Spain. Is this true?
Yeah, my mom worked in the American embassy over there. So I was born an American citizen on Spanish soil. I left there when I was 1 and never learned the language, unfortunately, because my parents were both American. So when I got back to the States, didn't learn it, but still attempting to learn it today. It's just, I've learned that I just do not have a knack for picking up languages because they just don't come easy for me.
I totally get you. And you got your real estate license and you said the same thing. You're like, it wasn't easy. You and I are so much alike that the fact that you just said that, I'm like, it's like if you check boxes, I'm like, are we the same person? Except I'm not as glamorous and I'm much shorter and I'm Jewish. And you just say things and I'm like, yeah, no, I wasn't an academic and language. Elena, we went to Italy. We went to Lake Como, had an amazing trip. And my husband at the time was like, it's beautiful. And he's like, you got to say bonjour. And I was like, bonjour. And he's like, that's horrible. I'm like, bonjour. I just can't language. I don't know.
Me either. Anyway. I can't language either. It's interesting. Maybe we need to change our mindset on that because, I feel like everything I take up, nothing has been easy for me. And I think now I'm having an epiphany while I'm on your show that I just need to stop that narrative that everything is hard for me. And now I'm just going to be open to the possibility that maybe I just have talents for picking up things right away. And I'm going to let you know how that goes, but I'm going to start adopting that new set of mind thinking.
I think it's so smart, but I think what we also share in common is that when we are invested in it and we're interested in it, we might not learn it fast, but when we do learn it, we become masters at it. That's how I feel. Like, I don't think I learn anything fast, but when I put my mind to it, it might take me a little bit longer to learn it, but forget it. Just like you, right? You just got into real estate and you're crushing it. So I absolutely think that I love that you're changing that narrative because I do think that's important that we recognize the fact that when we put our mind to anything, we are relentless and unstoppable and not mediocre. Would you agree?
1,000,000%. 1,000,000%.
And I think it's important for people to hear that everybody has their learning curve. They have their arc. I want to change that narrative because I think, unfortunately, in the school systems, we were taught because we didn't excel academically, but it wasn't that we weren't smart. We just weren't interested. But when we are interested, am I wrong? When we're interested in something, please stand back. Please hold my beer.
It's one of the barriers to study, is you have to have a purpose and a reason for learning. So the problem with it is kids are forced to go there and they don't understand why they're learning a subject, how it applies, how it becomes applicable. So they're forced to learn something, but they're not really learning it. They're actually just memorizing and regurgitating it for no apparent purpose. And, something like that can drive a kid mad. It can drive them angry. It can drive them insane. It can cause them to be fidgety and lack of attention span, because they didn't even confront the number one thing, which is, why are you learning this? What is the purpose? And forget it. The school system doesn't teach you how to learn. I could go on and on about this. They don't teach you, hey, when you come across a word you don't understand, look it up in the dictionary, because the minute you come across a word you don't understand, the rest of the page goes blank. It's a fact. Have you ever gone blank? You don't know what you just read? Well, I guarantee you, where you were last doing well, there is a word. Either you thought you knew what it meant, but actually it was a different definition, or you didn't understand it completely, and the rest of it goes blank. The problem is when I was in school, I didn't realize I was going past all these misunderstood words. Everything was going blank. I was going into non-comprehension, boredom, agitation, wanting to blow, wanting to leave. And somebody wants to say, oh, she's got attention deficit disorder. And they don't want to say, the teachers, they just don't know, because they're not educated in that arena on how basic study applies. You need to have basic study principles in order to learn any subject. So they're telling you, oh, Miss Teacher, what does this word mean? They're saying, whatever you think it means, make it mean that and continue on. Honest to God, that is what a teacher told my child in the school system today, because my kids are taught never to go past a word they don't understand. So anyway, what that did for me in school was it made me feel dumb. I felt like something's wrong with me. I felt, why do all the other kids read faster and have great comprehension and I don't? So it put a lot of undue insecurity and was placed on me when I just didn't realize all of that can and did get rehabilitated. And you aren't just born with your intelligence. You can actually increase your intelligence. You can increase your awareness. You can learn how to study. You can learn how to look up words so that things actually make sense and you can comprehend them. You can learn how to study on a gradient. If you start learning about calculus before you learned how to do addition and math, you're going to see why that would be really difficult to accomplish. You have to learn in gradients. If you go too steep a gradient, there's other phenomena that comes along with that. And then the other one is lack of mass. If you don't give somebody mass, if you don't tell a child this is a tumbler, he might not know what a tumbler means. He might think tumbler means tumbling on a mat. So give him the mass. This is the mass of the thing that they're studying. They have to study a tractor, and you can't obviously bring a tractor into a classroom. Bring in a picture so that they can have the mass. So it's not just so much information, which is significance buried upon a person without having the balance of, oh, wow, here's the actual mass that gets associated with it. So anyway, little things like that was traumatizing to me in school because I didn't know.
I completely get it. And what they labeled it is low grade reading comprehension. And it's not that we couldn't read, right? It was like, well, I didn't understand the word. I kept going. And you make me feel stupid if I ask. So you're just caught between a rock and a hard place. Without this, everybody has these problems. All you have to do is look it up. And I agree with you. We are not taught we don't learn how to learn. And it was a big reason I've moved my kids around a little. I'm like, he's not learning how to learn, or executive function of like, okay, how to organize your time. And it's super frustrating. And I think it embeds on our subconscious mind that, well, God, I'm not smart. And it's so wrong, because I believe everybody is gifted with great genius. And I think that sometimes in our school systems, it's not always, it's not messaged to each and every one. Give a bear a fishing pole, he's going to think he's dumb, right? Or judge a fish. Einstein says, judge a fish by his ability to crawl up a tree. And I think this is what academics and our school system is actually doing. We're like, if you can't grasp calculus, you're just not, you're not gifted. You're not gifted. But fortunately, you and I
and
both
I'm like,
overcame that.
what is the purpose? What am I ever going to do with that? How does that apply to my life? How am I ever going to use that? Like, I wish I would have known how to prioritize the importance of things so I could have kept myself sane through the whole experience.
Oh, 100%. I mean, and listen, if they would have told me calculus was going to make me money and put food on the table, I would have learned calculus. I would have I would have
been
aced
like,
it.
calculus, you can buy anything you want, because my needs back then are different than they are now. I would have been like, okay, when I wanted the kids to start learning Chinese, I had to give them a purpose, right? So I was like, the very first thing, they were very little. And I was like, do you want to be able to talk to your sister to each other in a language that mama and papa can't understand? And y'all could have all these funny conversations. You could plan surprise birthday parties. You could talk about the cakes and the balloons, and we wouldn't understand anything. It would be your own secret language you'd have together. And they were like, yes. And I'm like, this is Chinese. If you learn Chinese, y'all can have that secret language between each other. No one will know what you're saying. And they got really engaged and, learned Chinese.
And they need to learn it. And it's a part of that.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah, their own purpose that they can grasp,
100%. So I'm really curious about Spain. And so what was your mother doing there? What did your parents do? Do you have siblings? And you came back to the United States? I'm still stuck on Spain and what your parents were like and what growing up was like.
Okay. So, well, I don't remember Spain very much, but.
No, but what was your mother doing there?
Well, right. She was working for a 4-star general there. She had top clearance. Although I've grilled her to this day about what's, spy notes that she knew, because she had to type everything that she had like top clearance. But she claims she came across no secrets, didn't know anything. I try to accuse her of being a spy, but she vehemently denies that. And I tend to believe her because she actually gets seasick or dizzy or whatever on a merry-go-round. Like she's, very fragile woman. So I tend to believe her, but she would check all of the boxes of the person you would least suspect. Now, my father had fought in World War II, and he was with a shotgun. He was a really well-known, well, they did pigeon shooting in the day. I don't know if they do that anymore, but so he went around all of Europe and competed in all these competitions, and he was very successful. Him and my godfather. That's what they used to do. Anyway, so my mother had my sister, and she was 5 years older than me. So when my sister was 6 and I was 1, she decided she didn't want to raise the kids in Spain. She wanted to come back home. So my parents agreed to come to New Orleans, to move to New Orleans, because my dad wanted the most European city in America and she wanted to be close to her family in Alabama. So that was where they agreed to settle upon. Now, when my father came back.
Was your dad European?
No, but he loved Europe. He was from San Francisco. So he kind of liked that kind of town, wanted to go back there. But my mom was like, this is too far away from Alabama and my home and my roots. So they agreed upon New Orleans. So now they come back to the States, and what happens is my father, my best friend, he was an amazing man. Like I am definitely a daddy's girl, but he could not really assimilate into the workforce other than what he was doing. And there was no shooting competitions here. There was no ranks he could rise to. And he just didn't assimilate into the workforce. So now my father had this underlying resentment that when you get married and have children, as much as he loved his wife and his children, he also felt like it robs you of your dreams. And so my mother, on the other hand, had to come back and be the only solo breadwinner of the family. And my father never really brought in any money other than his little Social Security check. And so as we grew up, this was a big secret in our family. We always, when someone asked us what my father was doing, he was always trying to do something. He was either trying to be a real estate agent or work for the Chamber of Commerce or this or that. Even though he never did anything and never received a paycheck, we used to just say, oh, he works for this or he does this. So because I guess maybe he was ashamed of that, or it was just a stigma that we covered up for the family sake, But anyway, getting back to my mom, she felt like, so I had my father, a family ruins your dreams, kind of embedded in me. And from my mother, it was never depend on anyone for anything. You do it yourself, or it's the only means to survival. And basically don't depend on a man for anything. That a lot of that came from her, but it also, I felt like, came from society, right? So I have these two parent figures telling me to go off and do it all alone. Now, I had wanted to be an actress since I was a kid, but it really kind of came out as I was in high school. I went to a public high school that was, it was really challenging. It was a very rough school back in the day. It's kind of cleaned up a little bit, but it was a really rough, challenging school. So in order to get out of going to school for the whole day at that school, I found a school called NOCA, the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. And if you went for dance, got accepted for dance or music or writing or theater, one of the arts, you could get into this school. So that's when I auditioned to be an actress so that I could go to this school to get out of this horrible school for at least half a day. And I got in. So 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, I went half a day to the challenging school and the other half of the day to the art school. So that really became my lifeline on getting me out of New Orleans.
The academic school is one. Did you feel that you thrived in the other school? I don't even know what we call the other school, the creative arts school.
I felt like I had fun. I felt like, I really wasn't taking it too seriously. It was just really a means to escape the high school. And I felt like the teachers were really lenient. So I really didn't feel like I had to really apply myself much. But I felt that, I had this incident in my childhood. When I was around 14 years old, I had this best friend across the street who perished in a fire. Unfortunately, I witnessed the whole thing, and it was extremely traumatizing for me at that age to confront a death, but actually visually seeing something so horrific. It was another thing completely. And I had pretty much grown up in a good home life, not abusive. I could play in the neighborhood. There was always challenges here and there about stuff, but for the most part, I felt like I had a very good childhood. So when that incident happened, plus I had been a tomboy, we played on the streets, and as a tomboy, being a girl, you can't cry or you seem weak. And so I was always trying to prove myself and always trying to be tougher than and better than the guys, because I always had something to prove because I was a girl and I had a weak link, oh, don't be a girl. You know how they say that? So I always had to be better and stronger. Anyway, I'm setting that part of the story up because I really was good at developing a really tough exterior and shell. So now I'm transitioning from those younger ages of being a tomboy into teen years where I'm trying to find myself separated from my parents. And then I had this incident occur 13, 14. I don't actually remember what year it was, but it was around that age. So now I have this incident where I witnessed this. It was very devastating. And, I come from a family. My father, like I said, was in World War II, military background. It was, you just move forward. We didn't show or express our feelings much anyway. So, it's kind of embarrassing or kind of hard to say because you're like, oh my God, how could that happen? But, as the night progressed that one night, and then I'm in the hospital and she was dead, but on life support. And, obviously traumatizing. And that same day, even though I had been up since like 4 a.m. for that whole thing, like my parents actually had the conversation, like she should go to school that day because I shouldn't miss school. And to me, that was such a break in reality. Like, how can you expect to send a child that's literally just, seen something? I won't even explain the graphics of it, but very shocking.
I can't believe you went to the hospital.
Expecting me to go to school that same day. So obviously the next day I'm going to school. And so I had this times a million and now suppressing it because I'm at school and like I'm supposed to just function now. The long story of that is the house was right across the street, which was like a burned out shell. So, from that point, how I dealt with it is I just went down a road of self-medicating to, deal, to numb it out, to make it go away, to whatever. So, and my parents are a lot older. They had me later in life. And I know it sounds naive, but my mom was from the 50s. She had never done a drug in her life. She's never been with anyone other than my father. So the reality that drugs really existed to the level that they did, they really genuinely didn't have that awareness. And so when I stayed out until 7 a.m. and would make up a story, they would believe it, So I'm out there going down this reckless path, but it was extremely tormenting and painful because every time I went in and out of my house, I have to confront that house across the street. And so I couldn't wait to get out of New Orleans. So at 17 years old, I thought, well, what am I going to do? What can I do? I already think I'm not smart. So I rule out some sort of job. I love acting. I'm in NOCA, the New Orleans Center for Creative Arts. I'm like, this is my only ticket. People tell me I'm pretty, so let me go try to take my chances in California and see if I can become an actress. So I grasped onto the acting as a means to help me escape New Orleans. It was, when you go down the path of that world, that excessive drug and alcohol usage in New Orleans, it was punk rock era. It was reckless. It was crazy. It was a Fellini film. I had 8 more friends die, 4 in a car accident. 1 shot himself, 1 fell off of a balcony, 1 OD'd, like in a very short amount of time to just all of a sudden go from, oh, I'm a child to all of a sudden, what world am I living in? Like, this is insanity. So I couldn't wait to get out of New Orleans and I just latched on to the acting thing. And I moved to Los Angeles at 17 years old by myself. And my parents, when I was about to leave, they sat me down at the table and they were terrified. They didn't want me to go to Los Angeles. They thought I was going to go get peer pressured. That's the word they used. Peer pressured to doing drugs. And I was like, look, we have to have a very serious conversation. Name a drug, other than cocaine. I never directly did that. And I never directly did heroin. I said, off of the table of those 2 drugs, name a drug, because chances are I've done it, And I explained to him, I'm going to LA to clean myself up and to get out of this. And, I had their blessing, but, all of that was going on in their home and, they just couldn't see it. They couldn't confront it,
Did your sister know this was going on?
Yeah, my sister was in the punk rock world. She introduced me to the punk rock world. She had a 2-foot white mohawk. And
I need pictures. Just telling you.
We didn't take a lot of pictures back then,
Yeah, what I'm finding so fascinating. First of all, I never knew this. And your neighbor who passed in the fire, what was her name?
Goldie. Her name was Goldie.
Beautiful name, Goldie. I think there's nothing by accident. So it's interesting that you're sharing that. When did you realize Goldie had left such a mark on your life? Like, when did you finally, when were you allowed to unpack that and address it and really feel the pain of losing a friend and witnessing such a horrific, that's a horrific, I have chills. That's a horrific experience, Elena.
Oh, it
Like
really
you
is.
saw her get wheeled out.
Yeah. When they call it, I think they call it recover the body. Yeah. That was, that was, because it was her and her mother perished in the fire. And so my father was there. We were the first ones to arrive at the house. I don't have to get into detail, but we were spraying the house with hoses. It was all the neighborhood guys and me, all the people in the neighborhood that, anyway, waiting for them to show up, meaning the fire department. Anyway, long story. But so my father was there, and we knew that they were going to bring her out. So my dad didn't want me to see that. And obviously, so he was about ready to just, take me to the house, but they came out sooner than I thought. So I saw that image, and I've never had this experience happen since then. I never want it to happen, but literally my legs buckled, like my knees buckled underneath me. And like, I just remember like literally having no function of my body. Like I couldn't control it. Like I fell to the ground. My dad, picked me up and literally like had to kind of carry me away. It was just such a shock to the system. It just went like it just shut off, So yeah, it wasn't intentional that I saw that, but I did.
And I'm so sorry for that loss and that journey that took you on, that led you to, and I appreciate what you said, which is anesthetize yourself, numb yourself, because you're not alone in, numbing yourself. And I think more people need to not feel so like, oh, I'm the only one that has been through this. And, and it leaves an impact in our life, but it led you, amongst all those other things, led you to LA. Like led you on the pursuit, and what courage that took. Like, do you look back? You must look back. 17 is like nothing. You're like, you don't know. You're 17. Do you look back and you're like, holy mother of God?
Yeah, I do now, because I look back and I go, I feel like I'm a scaredy cat now. But when I put myself in those shoes and how many times and how many nights I had spent in the French Quarter and the people that I've been around and the things that I've seen since then and witnessed, I didn't feel like a 17-year-old that knew nothing. Or, when I look at my children who, Sabrina's 13, I think, God, I was only, a couple years older than her. It shocks me now, but I didn't look at it as courage back then. It wasn't courage. It was a necessity. Like I had to get
survival.
Out. Yes, I couldn't deal with it anymore. Like I was killing myself. I felt like I could have ended up maybe as one of my friends, like either in a car accident on the way home or, something. I don't know. I just felt like it didn't feel courageous to me at all. It felt very normal, and it felt like hope. It felt like, oh my God, here's an alternative to this misery. Like maybe I can go out and get rid of this pain or whatever. And, it wasn't until I had this dream one night where Goldie was in the dream. And basically she told me, how dare you use me as an excuse to ruin your life? Like, if you think and put yourself in my situation, what do you want the most from the people that you love? You want them to be happy. So if you think you being miserable is making me happy, it's, completely the opposite. And it's, such a, because, I had suicidal thoughts back then, or like wishes or desires, And so in the dream, she was like, how are you honoring me by being a fucking mess, And that dream kind of woke me up, and I was like, what am I doing? Like, if I really care about this person, I'm not going to wish death upon myself. I'm going to prove that to myself that I have a right to be here and I can be happy, and I can actually give that gift to not only myself, but to her. So it totally changed things around for me.
Wow. And now today you're giving it to so many others. And thank you for sharing that, because amplifying that message, and I don't believe that was by accident, because that is the truth. And it was almost like she just redirected you, that you're not honoring life the way that you should. You're capable of so much more. And I think so many people can resonate with what you just shared. Of there's trauma, and then we don't want to deal with it, but yet we're still living, we're still breathing, we're still in the realm of life. And wow, Elena, and I'm so glad you shared her name. I think her name needs to be shared. We need to hear about Goldie and, her mother and your experience through that. But you were able to turn it around. And, when did you first of all, how old were you when you had that revelation? And you can call it a dream, but I think it was very real. I mean, that's real. That is real. Yeah. That's real shit right there.
It was a life-changing dream for me, because it got me to think, and I was like, wow, that is right.
That was around. And what was she doing there? She just came in there, like you.
Yeah, it was, I don't know, how dreams are really weird. But, I was always punk rock, or I was going punk rock because I did everything my sister did. So, and she was very kind of conservative and not that way at all. And so she came to me in my dream with purple hair. She had purple hair, and I was like, Goldie, and she was like, live and express yourself. And, and she was just like, I don't know, I felt like it was something from the other side. And she was like, do what you're doing, but be happy, love yourself, love life, this is your opportunity. And then, then she went into the rest of what I already told you. But yeah, that was it. And then I think that was around 18 years old. Right after I had kind of moved and was kind of sorting myself out a little bit.
And then you got an opportunity probably at some point to mourn her death, mourn the loss. Your parents sent you right to school.
Well, when I was coming home from school, I would lock myself in my room and cry and sob in the pillow for what felt like hours. It felt like on the daily, it just wouldn't. So I definitely feel like I grieved. I did it in secret. When you saw me out at night partying, I looked like the life of the party. I looked very happy. I looked like nothing was wrong. It was a very duplicitous life.
It was what a powerful word. You sent your representative. They say that you sent your representative out to the party. But so many people, it's not a foreign experience to any of us. If we just, we have to send our representative out, the person that's the life of the party, because we want to be liked. We don't want to bring down the party. But I love that you shared her. Yeah.
And you know what? To this day, I don't have that shell. I promise you, if you would have talked to me back then, there would have been no tears, because I had such a wall, and now I don't have that wall. So it's very hard for me to try to not do that. I don't remember having to work as hard back then, because I'd figured this thing out. But getting back to showing up the representative, part of what I went through has also helped me in this part of my life, because I do believe sometimes you need to show up even when you are sad or depressed or don't want to or are scared. And, I don't know if I'm doing it on a conscious level, pulling some of that into the future now, but I use that because I don't always want to care about my precious little feelings as much. I'm glad I have them now. I'm glad I can actually feel, but I want to show up. And, sometimes we have this saying around here, no case on post, meaning no, don't bring your baggage on your job. So I believe when I show up to the office, that should stay out. Show up with my game face in my professional business world. There is a time and a place to have that. I don't need to come in and wreck everybody's life or let them know about whatever. I just personally don't feel like I'm going to damage myself just because everyone around me doesn't experience it. On that day, I'm feeling depressed or sad. Sometimes if you assume the position and assume the smile and show up and get busy, all of a sudden you find yourself snapped into that mood. Like so many times, just assuming the position snaps me out of it. Like, rather than just staying there thinking, I have to grieve this, or I have to really feel this, or I have to
Yes.
communicate this horrendous feeling. Like, no, I'm also over that. Like, you know?
I agree with you 100%. And I think it needs to be said, because there's a time and a place for everything, especially when you're in a leadership capacity. You know, you're guiding a team and they're showing up for a certain end game. I'm here to make more money. I'm here to learn. I'm here to build my knowledge, whatever it might be. And you're leading that team. You have to step into that role and respect why, you know, they're everyone's time. And it's maybe putting those emotional needs of the, like, I'm coming back to you. I'm not ignoring you. I'm not going to bury you. I have to stay over here right now because your goals don't care how you feel. The goals of your organization, the people that are looking up to you for mentorship, they don't care about your feelings.
Yeah,
they care that you show up. And I don't think the next generation has enough access to that.
To me, that is the therapy. To me, work is the basis of morale. You know, I can't tell you what you feel. I've just done so much analyzing in my life and self-reflecting and looking and growing and strengths and weaknesses. I can only speak about my life. But when I'm producing and I'm winning and I'm going for my goals and achieving my goals and playing the game of life, and sometimes I get knocked down, but I pick myself back up and I learn, and if everything just came to you where like there was no barrier to anything, like, that's why I think some of these multimillionaires that win the lottery become so unpleasant, because there's no challenges or barrier. Like, you have to have a barrier in order to have a game and to be excited and to have happiness. I think that's why some of these trust fund kids are so miserable, because they don't know how to have a game. Like, imagine how boring a football game would be if there was no other team to oppose them running to the touchdown. It would be very boring. You need opposition in life. So, but when I overcome that, and just that I have a game and I'm playing a game and I'm going for the game, that's my therapy. That's when I'm winning. That's when I feel good. You know, as a teenager, my game wasn't school. I was forced in school, didn't understand school. I got this other thing, Goldie, buried on me. I can't go out and work. I can't achieve anything. I'm not winning. It was just a recipe for just boredom, disaster, wallow in the wallow, and just, you know, fester. And then when I went out at 17 to California to go become an actress, a model, as my escape out of New Orleans, at least now I have a game. I could focus on, oh, wow, now I got to be up on time. I have auditions to go to. I can't be late. I have to prepare. I have this. It gets you in action. And then you book one, and then you're like, oh my God, Mom, I'm going to be on Saved by the Bell, and she called all the neighbors, and all of a sudden I'm off to the races. And that to me is always my therapy.
Absolutely. And I cannot argue with you on that. Like, not having to work for something and just be handed to takes the sport out of it. Life is a sport. And in what you shared with Goldie, and, in my own experiences with cancer, is that when I do get knocked down, I am reminded that I'm still in the realm of life, and not everybody is afforded that same blessing. So you have Goldie, I have cancer, right. No, listen, life might be really hard right now, and I'm in the suck, and I'm lost in the sauce, but I still have a heartbeat, and I'm still moving, and I'm showing up. Give me the jersey, coach. I'm in the game. I'm a little injured. I don't know how fast I'm going to run the ball today, but we're in the game, and I agree. Take the sport out of it. What is that? We're going to have to do a part 2 to this interview, because I have so many more questions. I still don't know where your sister is these days. I don't know where your parents are. I have so many questions, because I think family and family dynamics, when we share it, it helps other people to understand their own, journey, and their own, like, we all think like everybody's grass is greener. And what I'm finding out there's a lot of dumpster fire grass out there, but
1,000,000%. I heard a story from a gal today on her upbringing in childhood, and I'm like, I feel ashamed to mention mine because hers is so much worse. But it's not about comparison. It's what happened to you and the way it impacted and how it felt to you. Everyone has their own. It's not one was worse or one was better or this or that. It's just your own thing, and everybody has their own story.
Everybody has their own story. And what I'm finding in these stories, because I remove judgment and move into curiosity. So I'm always very curious about, call me nosy, call me curious, call me whatever, call me crazy, call me Wendy. I don't care. But at the end of the day, what I'm finding is if you look at people's, not where they came from or what they did, but you can look at their comeback, you're going to be blown away by almost everybody's true Hollywood story that none of us hear. So Elena, this was amazing. I have to wrap it up. We have a hard stop, but I hope you will do this again with me because I know that your team, your EXP needs to hear more about Elena's journey to where you are today because you are killing it in EXP. You have one of the largest teams, I believe, in that real estate organization. You're teaching people how to create generational wealth, live their best life, and you are a product of all of those things. You weren't born with a silver spoon. Academics wasn't your jam. You have forged your own path. And I think so many more people need to continue to hear about it. But Russ, I will do you a favor and I will land on time. But Elena, I have so many questions. Will you do this again with me?
Absolutely. You're amazing. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you. And thanks, Elena. And this was just part one because there is so much more to share, so much more to know about you. I appreciate Goldie visiting with us today because we don't want to forget her or her mother. And I think it makes us all appreciate more what we have and the gifts in front of us. So thank you for bringing her to the conversation. I appreciate you so much. And we'll talk later, but we are so alike. And our birthdays are 6 weeks apart or 8 weeks. We got a lot of good stuff. So thank you so much for being here. We will have a part 2. And thank you, Elena. You are unbelievable.
Thank you. You are.
Thanks for listening to the Bearing It All podcast, where we explore what it means to live your best life. To stay connected, go to barbaramajeski.com and leave us your email. We'll keep you posted on all that it means to have the health, wealth, and happiness that you deserve.